No matter where you are in your business journey, Pax8's Voyager Alliance helps with your success at every stage.
All of our partners are important. They're all incredibly critical part of the Pax8 ecosystem. They matter to me. I want them all to have an amazing experience that's correct for them.
You can't just ask the clients what they want. You have to spend a lot of effort and energy into reading between the lines on what they're saying and listening in a different way.
What's up, everyone? Happy Wednesday, and welcome to the game on Pax8 Live, the show where we talk about all the cybersecurity shenanigans you need to be aware of.
So I just wanted to call that out. The Windows Hello is MFA, isn't it, Meryl?
90% of the attacks start with a phishing attack, and
Sure.
Windows Hello just completely stops it.
You know what? All my victims were compliant, but they weren't secure. And I'm not telling them to go out and spend $1 gazillion. Change your mindset.
The data does not lie. And so the data shows that security awareness training is the #1 way to combat phishing attacks.
I'm Willis with your co-pilot tip of the week.
They're our fastest growing global distributor partner across all customer solution areas.
It's absolutely a big deal, a huge deal to get recognition from Microsoft.
So excited when you see these rolling around all over Ignite. You know that these are your top partners, vendors, whoever they are. They're actually the ones that are winning awards directly from Microsoft on a global scale.
Let's say since we started working with Pax8, we've seen our business double, maybe even a little bit more so then. And so the ways that it's helped us grow is just scalability.
Okay, welcome back. Actually, welcome back to the game. It's a new year, it's a new show, and we're getting started. So what are we talking about today? Today we are going to talk about device-based attacks, device-based registration, device-based phishing in general, and we're going to try to demonstrate a tool. So as long as the demo gods play along, Dom and I are going to have a good time talking about Graph Runner from Bo Bullock and in overall device-based attacks. And so let's get started on what are device-based attacks. Hey Dom, welcome to the show.
What's happening, dude?
You know,
It's,
just excited to be
It's
back.
February already, already halfway through a quarter. So, yeah, it's been crazy.
And you and I were just wearing the same sweaters today, or hoodies today, just the heck of it. No,
just by coincidence, yeah.
Or we just went to Wild West Hackin Fest last week, and one of the talks that you and I went to was a talk by Datadog about AWS device-based attacks, right? Which in
Right.
which the gentleman on stage basically said, not much you can do about it in the old auth flow. And really, other than monitor, right? I don't know if you took anything else away from it other than device-based bad.
Yeah, I mean, you can do a CloudTrail report on when that type of auth happens, but you cannot turn it off as of today, which is a little bit terrifying.
But luckily for you, if you're watching this and you're in the Microsoft world, that is not true. And we're going to talk about that. We can show you how you can protect yourself from this type of attack. And also, maybe this gives you some understanding of how some of the other business email compromise types things happen, right? Not just on the in the middle attack type methodology, but also on then when you start thinking about how did they get that EML file out? Did they go set up an Outlook and register, or did they do something different? And perhaps this might be one of those something different. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to kick over and hope everybody can see my slides that I've got ready for today. But the setup that we need for this, Dom, and I'm going to try to do this for each tool that we demonstrate this year when we do these tool-based ones, is a victim, right? That could be a cloud-based PC. That could just be a browser in which you're holding that. But whatever it may be, a victim that is going to go through the registration workflow, right? Is that fair what we need there? And what else do we need? We need a attacker, I think, right? So, yeah. And so in that case, I spun up a Proxmox VM. And I wanted to talk about how do these things happen? You're probably familiar with Dom and I walking through EvilGenix or a reverse-based proxy on an adversary in the middle or man in the middle. Dom, we saw a kid that really knew some stuff about this the other day, didn't we, man?
Yeah, it took him no time at all. One moment he was writing a phishing email with ChatGPT, he just knew how to do it, and the next moment he was collecting sessions. It was awesome and terrifying.
I laughed pretty hard because after he goes through his prompt that he had to create for the phishing email, Dom looks at me and goes, "Man, that kid hadn't written a paper for 2 years. I'm like, you're probably right. Yeah, like his prompt skills were baller. But anyways, in a traditional AITM, the methodology is this. I'm going to try to stand up some infrastructure, in this case, login.beardbanter.com, right? And that infrastructure is going to be there to respond to an in-the-middle attack, which means that I've got to then go get the threat actor to send an email, right? Hey, victim, please click on this link. And then if I do get the person to click on the link, they've also got to make sure that that filter in between, a DNS filter, isn't in place that's stopping that. You don't have something blocking or looking at WAFs and looking for categorization. There's a lot of things I'm going to have to do to try to evade and get that to happen, right? At the same time, I'm trying to evade Microsoft and hide from Microsoft's infrastructure. And all of the AITMs that I know of require this type of scenario where you have to actually have artifacts and things that show where you came from, all that kind of stuff, right? So a little bit of rehash. Yeah, a little noisier, right? And I get infrastructure taken down all the time. So in this case, a token's generated, tokens handed to the threat actor, tokens handed to the victim, and they move on. So you have to not only get the victim to click, they have to be aware that they're going to this like redirect page, things of that nature. And the pre-texting on it is usually done in the email, if not with some phishing that comes along with it, or voice-based phishing. How is device-based phishing different, Dom? What do you think happens here in this case? Can you describe it for people?
Well, the beauty of it is it's still a little noisy. Like I still have to deliver a phishing payload or make a phone call. But in terms of getting it past your email security, you're going to Microsoft.com. Right?
Yeah.
And that's that's what. Raise your hand if you block Microsoft.com on your corporate network, right? That's a problem. Yeah.
That's a problem. Yeah, it would be. Yeah, you might be able to WAF it and like block the front/device, registration and things of that nature that are part of this attack flow. But to your point, it's tough and it's easy to get through phishing. They're not going to look at it as bad. The link's going to come back with a high confidence level, right? Those kind of things. And so what's next in the step? I get them to go to Microsoft.com. What do I have to do next, Dom?
Yeah, so now we're going to pull them through what we call a device code authentication flow, which essentially, in that email, I'm going to say, hey, I'm IT, whatever, go through here, enter these 6 or 7, however many it is, letters, and authenticate. And you're going to authenticate to Microsoft. There's nothing in the middle. There's no proxy. It is a to Microsoft authentication. That's really important to point out. But you're not going to get the token back, right? Threat actor is going to get the token back.
That's right. It's happening in a separate flow, and that flow is happening with GraphRunner in this case, and that's what we're going to be demonstrating is that tool, just like we've demonstrated EvilGenix in the past. I'll add some extra context in the sense that GraphRunner is meant to be a post-compromise tool in which you might be going through this flow yourself, but I could just as easily see a world where I'm vishing someone through this, right? Hey, Dom, this is Matt with IT. I need to get you to click on this. Please type in these letters. Like you could see that pre-texting and vishing type social engineering playing out pretty well for that, in my opinion.
Well, from that phishing perspective, I'm not sending you anywhere weird. I'm sending you to Microsoft, right? Like it's a
it's going to check
pretty
out.
normal place for me to go, right?
Yeah. But Dom, you've brought this up because this is actually one of the things that's unique about Entra in this case is that we can do something about it, right? What can we do about it?
Yeah, so it's in conditional access as an auth flow, so I can simply say no, you can't use device code flow, and you can decide how aggressive you want to be, but your average tenant probably just doesn't need to use device code flow, but you could limit it to a certain group or whatever. But long story short, you have a really flexible way to say, no, device code flow is not allowed. And CA will say, nope, policy says you can't do that.
Yeah, 100%. So this is our takeaway for today. If you stop watching right now, go implement device code flow limitations if you're not using them in your organization, and just don't let it happen if you don't need it. It will block this type of an attack.
There are legitimate uses, by the way. I literally just 2 or 3 weeks ago wrote a device code flow-based script because my team operates on like 6 or 7 tenants a day, right? So that being able to use a separate browser identity and not collude what you're authentic, there is value in it. So don't take this as all device code flows are bad. It exists for a reason, right?
Yeah, but even then, Dom, you can do GTIA, right? You could turn on the policy for most of the time and not for when you need it in the interim, right? And do that just in time, just enough access capability for that. So, yeah, great call out. Let's build the infrastructure. I wanted to save you the time since we are shortening this show to 30 minutes as much as Matt will shut up. And so I went ahead and deployed a Windows 11 machine on my Proxmox host. Went ahead and deployed that as usual. It was kind of fun, Dom, because I got to click on the install from CD pop-up. It was just, I don't know, a little nostalgic. It just felt good, man. It just felt
I
good.
still think they need a little Easter egg in Windows setup, like certain key
Yeah,
combination.
it just
something
does
plays
that.
the old XP setup music, you know. Like,
Totally, and a meaningless progress bar that's just going by and wrapping around
yeah.
a bunch. Like that would be that would
Yes.
be on top of things. So I set up this email account. I like to set up new email accounts whenever I do this, if nothing else, but to populate the world with as many fake Matts that I can. But this is not a hacker for real at hotmail.com. I'm signing into Windows with that. And so this is our attacker VM. That's all we actually need for these tools. And what we're going to try to do is demonstrate what does it take to deploy these tools. In this case, it's just a Windows or Linux VM running PowerShell. It says that you can do this in either of those. In this case, we're doing it in Windows. So what is GraphRunner? GraphRunner, RevShell, or Bo Bullock, Daft Hack, a bunch of different people involved at the Black Hills Information Sec. Humans, Daft Hack is this guy with the giant beard, although he has no giant beard now. In the bottom here, he's shaved his beard down quite a bit last I saw him. But basically, it's a PowerShell that we download and we import, right? So we're going to set that up. But let's take a look at what some of the capabilities are. What is GraphRunner? GraphRunner says it's a post-exploit tool for interacting with the Microsoft Graph API. It provides various tools for performing reconnaissance, persistence, and pillaging of sweet, juicy data from a Microsoft Entra Azure AD account. Has three parts: PowerShell script, which is what we're going to be playing with today; HTML GUI, which we're probably going to play with today a little bit, if we can get an access token; and then a simple PHP redirector for OAuth flow code interception. Dom, it sounds like that is a little bit like EvilGenix when I dug into it and the things that it's doing. I don't know, maybe we dig into the words.
You know, I've actually never poked that functionality in GraphRunner, so we might have to do that today.
I haven't either until I was digging into it today and looking at the wiki. So here's some of the stuff that are in the main feature set. So know your tools type thing. Search and export email. Business email compromise. When I first pop in, I'm going to look for ACH, ABA, right? I'm going to be looking for terms that help me find payment, invoice number, please pay, remit by, X days, like stuff to that nature. So, and then the export. Think about this way. One of the most sophisticated attacks I saw was really pretty simple from a business email compromise. They compromised the account, took the .eml files and exported them out, and then brought them into a new domain that they were using for. This is a method of exporting those EML files, right? Of doing that without ever having hands on a console or in a GUI. It's all being done through Graph API. See what else stands out here, Dom. Search and export SharePoint. That could be juicy.
All may or may not have sensitive data.
No, never, right, Dom? Nobody ever has sensitive stuff in their Teams files in OneDrive. Malicious apps. There is a Poisoned Enterprise app deployment capability. What would that be for in your mind, Dom? Why would you have a malicious app being?
That's to abuse Graph API, right? Like that's
Yeah.
assign it certain scopes that you want. It kind of looks like just another app in the system, and I can just poke at it whenever I want.
And it gives you access and persistence, right? Because you've been here now. I've got a token. Now let me go register a whole app and hope you don't look for it after you're doing it. Which is also one of those things that I would give to MSPs saying, oh, I dealt with it. They had a BEC, but I kicked the person out. I refreshed the tokens. We're great. Are you aware of all the other persistence mechanisms that can be done? And that's why I love digging into adversary tools. You'll start to understand some of those persistence capabilities that exist out there, right? Misconfigured mailboxes that allow me to take over, clone security groups. I actually dug into what this means in this case. Basically, there's some abuse that can be done if they're named the same thing and you place yourself in that group and they have a different GUID even. The name can have some abuse there, so that was pretty neat in Bo's Breaching the Cloud class. Find groups that can be modified directly by your user, like what rules I have rights to do stuff on, user attributes. GUI for the Graph API to pillage. I love that pillage made it into the the documentation more than once. Dump CA policies, so I can learn what all the CA policies are. Dump app registration, so I can see if there's other like third-party SaaS apps that they're using that might have that juicy data in it. Yeah, so lots to unpack here. I imagine everybody's done looking at that. Let's get back to the attacker and the victims, huh? So let's start. What do you want to start? Attacker, Dom?
Yeah, we got to get a device code, right? So.
Yeah, let's go through a flow. Let's see if we've got a VM. All right. I'm not doing Windows updates. Who needs Windows updates? We don't control 7 here.
That's just spyware.
Yeah, right? We don't want that stuff. Okay, so let's go to PowerShell. I'm going to make y'all watch me terribly type. You don't need to be an administrator. You do need to at least have the ability to execute scripts. So the PowerShell set execution policy unsigned, or in this case, whatever it might be set. I've already done that. So we don't need to be admin in this case. So we're going to go to downloads where I've, yep, so unrestricted. Yeah, might as well, right? Always, permanently, forever. Let baddie stuff run. So let's go, we're going to say cd/graph runner. That should put us in the directory. So in the directory, we've unpacked it. So we have graph runner PS1, right? We have the JSON for default detectors. We have the PHP redirector, incoming template, webhook template, and then the license and README file that you can get off of GitHub. So we need to do /invoke. All right. Let me look at, hold on. We need to import module. So we'll import the module first. We're going to say run. Can everybody see my screen okay? I'm guessing probably.
Yeah, it looks good.
Tom, you're good. Okay, cool. So now we have Graph Runner. And I love their tagline, do service principals dream of electric sheep? In my heart, I like to think they do. You know, in my heart, I do. I don't know. But we are loaded. So we do have reference to his GitHub, and we can list modules. So we can go in and say list-graph run, and we can auto tab because we've imported this module in PowerShell, so it'll just auto complete for us. And we can look through it. So we have all this invoke, delete OAuth app, delete group, remove quote media, drive file download, check access. We have tons and tons of stuff we can do. We're going to focus first on the initial piece, which is getting a graph token.
And one of the beauties of Graph Runner is it's just so diverse and escapable. Like you can troll and just delete people from groups if you're just one of those threat actors. Or you can straight up just exfil on the mailbox. Like you got choice here.
That, you know, it's the choice that really matters, right, Tom? I mean, that's the point, is the flexibility. But seriously though, like it is how flexible this is. And you can tell it's written by somebody that is a practitioner that does this for a living. It was to make their lives easier, likely, at the beginning of this. All right, so we're going to say get-graph tokens. That's going to open up a session that says to sign in, use a web browser to open the page to Microsoft.com/device login. And Dom, why don't you document this code for me so you can read it back to me? I'll read it out.
Oh, you caught me on ready. Go, go, go.
Foxtrot Bravo 7-8 Romeo 5 Tango 4-2.
All right.
Okay, so let's bring up our victim, right? So we have a victim machine. Hopefully you'll be able to see this here real quick. Yep, there's our victim. I loved this background, Dom, because it was, I asked for it to make me a victim image in ransomware, and this is my victim image, was a dead $, which is just, it's just delicious. It's perfect. Okay, so what was our website we needed to go to? We go to Microsoft.com/device registration. I think I'm already there, but let's just go one more time for the heck of it. Device login, correct? What's that code, Dom, or phishing threat actor that's not totally trying to convince me to sign into a malicious site?
It is going to be Foxtrot Bravo 7-8 Romeo 5.
Would you read that to me again, Sonny?
Tango 4-2. Be more accurate if you actually typed out Foxtrot. Saying,
yeah, I literally. Yeah, it's true. That is true. All right, so we're going to authenticate. I don't think I can bring a security key through here. So we're going to go to other ways to sign in. We're going to, let's sign in with a password. Why not? Let's get super fancy. I think I have the password somewhere here. I hope that's not really the password. Let me go get the password. Sorry, y'all. Law of demos, right? I didn't think about the fact that I actually had to sign in. Bear with me, y'all.
You know what's interesting is isn't this an Entra joined virtual machine?
It kind of is because it's a cloud PC. So
yeah, it should be Entra joined.
Yeah, but I use a FIDO token. Oh my gosh, that's a long password. That's a really long password. Yes, we're good. Thank goodness. All right, we're okay. I promise. 284-506. 284. So technically though, to your point, if I was an Entra joined machine that was passing it through from the primary refresh token, it should absolutely
just fly.
Yeah, just let that go through. So this is what the victim is going to see. They're just going to go through and see, like, okay, cool, like done. I'm
And you have signed into
I'm done.
Microsoft
It's
Office.
signed in. Like,
Super legit.
what else? Like nothing wrong. It says login.microsoftonline.com, app verify. There's no other thing there. So let's go ahead and go back to our attacker and see if we got it. Yeah, so our attacker did. It says, hey, successful authentication, access and refresh tokens have been written to the global $tokens variable. And you'll see why that comes up later. As we use the graph runner components, it's always $token that's been captured out of $tokens as the overarching variable, right, Dom? Is that what you mean? Read that to mean in the tokens conversation in PowerShell?
I do, yes. Yeah. Okay. Much like a
all right.
Like construction.
So we have the information.
I also want to note though, like, look at all these scopes you got. So that SCP variable showing in your list there, like those are
it's a
all
lot.
graph scopes of capabilities you have, right?
Yeah, audit log create, audit log.read.all, calendar.read.write or read-write, calendars.read.shared, calendars.read-write, contacts.read-write, data loss prevention policy.evaluate. Like that's handy. I can see why that might matter in an exfil
Group
type
read
tool
all,
set.
org read all, people read all, right? Like there's a lot there.
Yeah. So can I just simply, I think I can just simply use the GUI. I think you just launch the HTML if I remember out of this directory. But I'm not sure if I then have to, because the tokens are manual, I'd have to probably go put them in. Let's see. Yeah, because then you have to go get your token and put that in. And then you can do everything in their GUI here. Right here, it's in the tokens variable. Where's that token for just copy? Is that... What all has to be copied? That's the decoded payload. All right, we'll play with the graph runner UI. The nice, or the web, non-web, goodness gracious. The nice thing is we can go to their wiki too. And it was a pretty good wiki if I remember. So we have a token. What does that mean now, Dom? It basically means we have access, yeah, at this point?
We are MattLee, right? That's what, and we don't need to authenticate again because the token proves that we authenticated. So we're good.
So this would be invoke graph recon tokens $tokens. So let's try. Let's see what we get here. $tokens, $tokens.
This is a stored variable, right? It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah. That was the stored variable tokens. So basically what we got in this initial enum is, if you think about it, it's like any other good enumeration tool like enum for Linux or any of those that are just trying to get you some information. So it says, hey, I'm at 7+1 Labs, 5500 South Quebec Street. I think I know what that address is. Whoever registered it is this numpty D Kirby at Pax8.com. I don't know this guy, but he must be.
It's terrible.
It gets your... What a horrible name. No, I just teased Tom. 7P1 Labs not on Microsoft. Directory sync enabled as fault, so you can start gathering some information about the domain. Like I now know that it's not hybrid, probably, right?
Well, you know, if it said true, I would just stop attacking this and attack your Active Directory because that's way easier.
I'm just going to let it...
Sorry, I had to do it.
Yeah. No, it's good. It's good. SSPR is enabled, so I can do self-service password reset. Hey, wait a minute. Users can consent to apps equals true. Users can read other users equals true. Users can create apps equals true. Users can create groups equals true. We already saw where that comes into play, like in creating groups that are sister or lookalike groups to the other ones. Root admin URL. So just basically all the stuff that you would need to do to enumerate, they enumerate from the user. This is no different than LDAP, right? And having the ability to query from LDAP about other LDAP objects is kind of a base built in. Yeah. So show SkyDrive Pro initial visibility true.
I love how
so there's just lots and lots of data. I know, right? Oh gosh, it gave me like shivers. All right, so this is our first enumeration that we can do. What else can we play around with now that we have access? And you'll notice the victim's no longer involved anymore, right? Like this is just a session and a device-based session. To your point, Don, they're very convenient for being able to be that principal through that device registration as that principal. So let's look at permission enumeration. Let's do enumeration, Dom. I think enumeration sounds like a blast. So that's just basically another flag, permission, will it auto flag for me? Will it just take permission enum? Huh. Look at us. Look at us enumming. Here we are enumming, Dom.
Numbing.
Num. All right, so this is just trying to figure out what all this user has access to. And so you would start building kind of ideas of what you want to go look at from this perspective, maybe, perhaps. But I basically,
Yeah, I mean,
so you're going to
you could
get
pipe
all
this out
kinds.
to a text file, right? And then just use that to start picking weight. And this has been very quiet so far, right? I want to point, like, we haven't really
Yeah.
done a whole lot against graph, aside from understand what scope we've just gotten. So this is going to let you as an attacker plan, like, what are my moves? Because this is going to get noisy, right? If we start dumping emails or if we start querying Outlook or share, like, then it gets noisy. And if we have an effective, like, MDR provider looking at this, they're going to spot that at some clipping level.
Let's dump all the conditional access policies we have access to so we can start planning those higher level attacks. And anybody might say, well, it doesn't matter if you're already at this point, you've already gotten through conditional access. Nope. Because there might be escalatory conditional access policies that require escalatory means above what this token has been granted that might come into play potentially that we have to get through, right? And so that might be why you're still looking at, okay, SharePoint Admin Center, block access for apps on unmanaged devices. I now at least have some clue that I need to be on a managed device, and what device registration does to that, how it's treated from an Intune perspective, I'm actually not quite aware.
Well, if you do like
Policy
continuous
state
evaluation,
disabled.
then that's often going to bunk the idea that you can replay the token, right? Because it's going to reevaluate the machine
Yes.
compliance you're on.
Hey, good news is MAM's only in reporting status, so like we're good there. Like we know we
Perfect.
got some attack surface there.
You can
Thankfully,
use,
whoever these
you can use
people are, at
iOS
7+1.
mail all day.
Geofencing for the Throwdown users group. I need to get in this Throwdown users group. They get like
That's a great
freebies
group.
to let them like. What a terrible thing's happened here. Goodness gracious. App enforced restrictions for browser access. So you can go and dump all the conditional access policies. So that's pretty handy. What else do we want to try, Dom? We looked at conditional access. Let's see. Dump apps. So this is
Take a look at
dumping
apps.
all
Let's
enterprise
see
apps.
what
Yeah.
Yeah, because we can
Some
start
kind
to
of
see what
enterprise
SaaS
apps your
products
teams
you're
put in here.
using.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yep. Okay, let's clear the screen. And let's
And
dump
this is that
what enterprise
reconnoitering
apps.
phase, right? Like I
That's
might
right.
see
We're just digging in.
a single sign-on. Like if I see a single sign-on of a certain popular IT documentation provider, and I know I can go there and just say, "Hey, please don't SSO me," and you're not going to SSO me, right? Like so, I can start to glean what's possible here.
Exactly. We've got Avanon, it looks like. We've got, man, there's a lot of enterprise apps. O365 LinkedIn connection, that's nice. We've got Checkpoint Cloud Security Platforms. So we've got teams looking at our enterprise apps. So it looks like at some point they've deployed Avanon. And now as threat actors, we need to watch out because we know we have an API-centric tool set looking at things that we might be aware of that we have to look for, right? Domain controller services. I'm not sure what that is, actually. Is that an inherent app?
Yeah, that one's actually concerning. Yeah, I don't know.
I'm genuinely not sure what that is. I know some of them I have deployed, but yeah, interesting. Avanon Cloud Security Platform stands to reason. Calendly has been deployed in here. And so that's the point, right? If you're watching this, is that now you could start going, okay, they've signed up for SSO to, let's call it Calendly. Let's replace that with Dropbox or replace that with whatever.
Right.
You might be able to get an idea of the scope. Who used it? In this case, we know it was this Emily 7+1s, which is me, right? I have access to those apps that are mine, right? So that's probably what that is, yeah. But it is good enumeration there. So let's see, what do we have from a pillaging? We have 80 users. That'd be fun. Let's get all the users. And we're going to put it in a file called users.txt. How about that? Mainly because I'm being lazy and I don't have to change the code at all to do so. Anyways. Okay, so we have admin, Alex, C. Baker, C. Heichelberger, Dom Kirby, F. Hillard, or J. Humphrey, Megan B. So you can dump. Now, this isn't all that novel, and I can do a lot of this same kind of stuff by dumping users through other, like Trevor Spray comes to mind. Trevor Spray is pretty good at that because you just check for OneDrive existence in HTTP or HTTPS. But it does get stuff like these packages at 7+1 Labs. I wouldn't get those probably quite likely. So interesting. All right. Let's see. One more thing. We got time just for one more, and then we got to go. We're wrapping up. So obviously what you're seeing it doing is it's passing this token variable out as it's grabbing things like what security groups am I in, get updated groups using these tokens. And so it's just taking that token, but also it makes it possible to refresh that token and add persistence. Those are all commands that can be done inside this tool set.
We can show them that access token if you just do tokens or just do tokens in the PowerShell, or dollar tokens. It should
here
dump,
just this way, dollar tokens.
Yep, should dump the variable for you.
So here's
you
your
so
variable
you got a refresh
right here.
token,
Yeah, exactly.
you got an ID token, an access token. So you got all the things you need here.
Yep, there's your bearer token that you're going to present, right? All their access token goodness in JWT, or well, probably at least base 64 encoded. But is it encrypted or encoded, Dom?
That's a JWT. Nope, it's just
Yeah,
you
okay.
could take any of those tokens and decode them. Yeah.
All right, let's look at pillage modules real quick, just because I wanted to get to use the word pillage.
That's going to be
Use
the
a
fun
pillage
one. Yeah,
tool.
let's,
I want
let's
to pillage
some data.
I'm pillaging now. Invoke pillage. So invoke search mailbox term, and we're going to search for earnings. So let's go ahead and put this in. And so what they're saying is we're going to use that token, and we're going to search for the term password, but we're going to change this to token or earnings.
Earnings.
Let's do earning. And it's going to say, hey, subject, sender, Exchange Labs, message. Whoa, earnings are really high this year. One of our subsidiaries is AI for water. I bet that's 4T engineering. That'd be my guess.
Interesting.
We're going to be $1 billion over on our earnings report. Do you want to download these emails? Yes, please. I could use these. But you could see how you use that to look for something like ACH or payment or right bank or accounts payable or whatever it may be. So this is going to dump that file, and it looks like it makes it into a handy web host even. It does, doesn't it?
Wow.
Do you have anything with password in it? Oh, gosh. Screen Connect Cloud Password Reset Code. Screen Connect Login.
Oh,
Microsoft Search Services. So, like, yeah, totally. 100%. Password is in the search terms. I think we will not download these. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it, y'all. Just from the demonstration perspective, we've shown that you can phish someone or vish someone to get them to put in a code to Microsoft. It'll return the token back to me as the threat actor, right? So I think we've
Well, and here's the
demoed that
fun
pretty
part,
good.
because what you just did was pretty noisy. Like, that's a lot of API calls against Exchange to get that data that you're going to get in about 2 hours once Microsoft decides the log is ready for you. And that's a big problem, right? Like you know, we have a tenant with Blackpoint on it, and it's also my dev tenant, so I smoke it a lot, and it probably annoys the hell out of them. But you know, it takes time, and that's not Blackpoint being slow. That's when the audit log showed up, so Blackpoint could look at it. So Matt, you could have dumped a whole lot of data and been well gone. And while it's probably going to get detected quickly, it doesn't matter. It probably wasn't detected in time for you to stop it, unless you had a lot of dwell time and they found that device code flow.
Well, and I think that brings us to the play of the game, right? In this case, and let's just go ahead and hit it. I'm gonna wrap it up with that, Dom. You're right. The play of the game is this. To Dom's point, if we were monitoring and looking at logs for these things, and we're saying, hey, we need to see how long it takes us to get to where we catch the threat actor. If the threat actor is manually typing these in or manually parsing through using, God forbid, Microsoft's amazing search capability, this is a real challenge. But you saw how fast I was able to get in, get establishment, maintain persistence, create and search for things, do enumeration, start exfilling stuff that was sensitive or juicy to me that was valuable, and then take that and move along before the log ever hits the first part of that for the threat actors to be detected. And it's just this, is that tools are getting better and better, and we've always known this, right? That the threat actors go and use tools that were made by researchers because they make them more efficacious and more valuable, and then that also makes every one of us have to be a little bit better, including Microsoft. But go protect yourself from device-based phishing and device registration attacks. It's a simple CAOA and the right licensing.
Game over.
All right. Thanks so much for joining us. We hope you like this format. We're going to keep doing it, but we are going to do something just a smidge different next week. So next week, CJ and Wayne from GTIA are joining us. We're going to talk more about Trustmark, but now that some of these assessments are happening, Wayne and CJ are going to come and point out where they're seeing people fall short the most, right? Where MSPs are falling short of the Trustmark assessment, and hopefully give you some top takeaways. So join us next week, same time, same place. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, all of that fun social media stuff, and we'll see you next time.